Welcome back to Goldenridge. Today we're making big infrastructure upgrades to our new industrial city, adding major detail along the riverfront and filling in a huge chunk of the layout. So, let's get to work. Okay, so here we are in our new city that is looking great. I went through since the last episode and just added some detail stuff and filled some stuff in that would have just taken super long to do during one of the videos. So I left some stuff to finish up and to keep doing, but overall this city is feeling awesome and way more dynamic than Blackfoot, which I love, but there's a lot more character, I think, and a lot more history that you can find here in this city. So everything's just looking really great. And the first thing you can kind of see that I did is filled in with a bunch of textures for specifically our rail stop here. I think just filling this in whether this whole thing was a big train yard back in the day and now it's kind of, just kind of left open or whatever you want to interpret that as. I think that's feeling great. I did cut down on the density a bit on this strip here of Daffodil Street, which we should probably change because I was just not a fan of that. But it was feeling a little bulky, and I want this stretch to feel a little more open. And honestly, even this building, which is awesome, I think might be too big for this block. So we'll see. I also swapped out the other church for this one, and now that's looking real pink. Which I think this one, the other one was great, but it didn't really, I don't know, it wasn't quite feeling quite right. And this one has the added benefit of having a cemetery, and we needed some death services. So that has been super helpful to have the hearses out. So let's see what else. Filled in, that's kind of all the same. I think the other stuff I really did was focus on these riverbanks. So I got a couple of warehouses and some industrial stuff going on right here on the river. This back in the day was, they used to float logs down the river for transportation. So maybe that's initially how something like this started, or these were old fishing warehouses, or who knows. But those are all looking great. We got some more industrial stuff here. And then this section I'm loving. So this building we had stuck on here last time that was really just kind of floating on the edge here. And I think that the way that this has been tucked in is feeling awesome. And I added this old kind of mill thing to it that I just think this looks amazing. And if you think of this as being a place that someone lives, like that's a loft I would certainly live in. So I just think this whole area is feeling super cozy. And then I added a ton of brick sidewalk stuff just everywhere. So from up real high, it's just really brick looking, which is, I know it's definitely an East Coast thing, somewhere like Portland, Maine. There's lots of places that are very brick. So I just wanted to lean into that, and I think that's all feeling really great. So, and then I also got another kind of riverside warehouse, or not warehouse, but just industry and stuff right on the water here that I think looks awesome. I also kind of tweaked these mountains so that we don't have such a drastic cliff, and I think I was actually able to get a fairly realistic look to it without totally destroying a bunch of these really detailed height map mountains. So I think that looks great. So overall, yeah, I think we're sitting in a really great spot. There are a couple of things that I want to address right off the bat. Number one is you may have seen in the outro, and I think in the intro of this episode as well, but the outro of last, that we had some crazy traffic. And it has calmed down now. Every time I, build a bunch of new stuff, traffic goes insane, and that's kind of how this game tends to go. But it did get me thinking that we only have one highway exit in and out of this town, and that's probably not realistic and probably not great for all kinds of reasons. So I think the first thing I want to do is get ourselves another highway entrance and exit. And we've got a lot going on over here, rail-wise and highway-wise. But I think we can sneak another thing in right through here and kind of just get another road going on coming out there. So that's kind of where I think I want to start today. And we'll start with this 2-lane highway, because I just really think this will be kind of an interesting extended kind of highway looking thing. So I also added some detail over here and to this coastline, which I think looks sweet. So I want our main street here, which is called Holly Street. I think we have our other on-ramp coming in to there on, kind of our main intersection here of Cherry and Holly, very plant themed. And Rosewood, wow, they're very, very plant, Meadow, very plant themed out here in this town. Magnolia, we got another daffodil. So anyway, yeah, so I want to turn the end of Holly Street here into this kind of, let the off-ramp kind of fill into that, so that people coming in from this way who are trying to get, say, over to this end don't have to go all the way around here and come all the way back. They can just come right in here and then cross this bridge. So I was looking at this, and I think if we give ourselves an elevated section here and just kind of run this right across, I want to keep a nice kind of fairly balanced elevation here. So that's pretty good. And then I was debating if I want to go, and now that I've done that, I actually think we might change it, because I'm debating if I want to go over this train track or under it. And going over it probably makes the most sense, because this is kind of where I think the area we have to, the area we have to have enough room to do our off-ramp. So maybe actually we start here so that we have some idea of where we're aiming, and that way we can, meet this stuff. So let's get some flatness going out over here so that we have room for this new off-ramp that I think is going to be just really, really helpful. The traffic does die down, but every time I build even a couple of new buildings, it just got insane. So I think this is going to be good. So we have an under the highway pass here, and I guess if we want to decide if we want to do another under one, then maybe we do come under this. But if we want to go over, maybe we go over too. So man, I'm a little torn. I think over makes more sense. I want to go under, but I don't want to do something insane. I know that thinking about this makes me think that infrastructurists would probably say that going underneath would be most insane, so let's do it, and I applaud him for that. But I think I'll leave him for the most insane intersections of all time and try to stick to something that is a little more plausible. I don't have his patience for figuring out some of those insane intersections that he puts together that are just awesome. Okay, so we're just gonna throw one of these in and get a bus here to see what kind of clearance we have. And it's a little low, but I mean, it's plenty, but I think we can bring probably this one up to over here. Ooh. Object height, and there we go. And I don't think we need that many nodes there. And then, so yeah, we'll bring this in here, and now that I've flattened all this, I was thinking we were going to be going underneath, and now that we're going over, I think we should bring it back up for the most part. In fact, probably actually going to redraw this because I want it to go directly across the land here. So bring that back up over here and just kind of fill that in. And we will need to bring a little of this in just to have room for ramps, but Okay, so now let's go back to this guy, and now we can just bring this down to the ground level, and straight across should give us what we want. And yeah, I do want that to be, I think, earth level. We'll call it. Weird. There's a node there, but I want that to be ground, but for some reason it changes that. So we'll just put it back, but that's interesting. Okay. So back to the road here. We'll go back to ground. And then, so let's see. I also wonder if this, maybe there's a little kind of lull there. So maybe this comes like that, wraps around, kind of comes like that, wraps around here, and then crosses maybe right about there. So let's flatten out this ground all the way here. And then we'll bring our road off to the side and aim it kind of like that. And then if we bring it over and force a bridge, and we'll stick with a flat one, and 1% down to, yeah, right about there, I think works. And now we got to figure out what's going to be. I don't just want to have like a sky bridge kind of thing. That doesn't feel super realistic, I don't think. I don't just want to kind of, you know, like just this big elevated monstrosity doesn't feel quite right, which is kind of why I wanted to go underneath. We can build up all of this earth, but that also feels like a lot, but I think that's what we're going to do. So let's bring this back a little bit, and we can also, is there a train coming? Because I think that's way more than enough clearance, and we can probably lose some of this elevation between here and there. So let's actually bring that guy down a bit. And nope. Oh, I missed one. Let's try that again. There we go. And see, these are all the same. There we go. Flat, and that can come down a bit. I would love... There's a train. We also have a lot of train traffic jams here, which is something else that's on the list to talk about today. So we'll come back to that. But I was hoping a train might come through here. But I think that should be more than enough. And if it's not, we can adjust it. All right. So we'll bring up a little bit of dirt here, as much as I kind of like this little area. So we'll just bring this up, and we're going to get rid of this because I actually think we're going to come that way. So, all right, up you go. Oh, there's a train coming. All right, so let's try. Let's just make. Oh, it's going on the wrong track, though, of course, obviously. All right, let's get this bridge in, I think, now. So looking at this, there actually isn't quite the dip. I thought there was, but we will bring this down because I think we want it to kind of come like that. So right about here, we're gonna just bring that down a little bit, kind of have it, can smooth some of that out a bit and match. How much lower is that? Ooh, that is quite a bit lower, but it's actually more in line with what we have over here. So that actually probably makes more sense. So we'll bring that up again. And then, all right, so now highway, bridge, surface level. straight line for here. And actually, let's not force that because I do want to start something like that. 1.6 is probably, 6 is better. And then let's turn ground on and get this back up and turned and kind of heading up this way. And this is not the most ideal layout. This might totally just not feel good at all here. But it's actually not bad. I think we can raise it up a little bit and get rid of our floating rocks and trees. And we can probably bring this up a bit here. So just grab these nodes and that one, and even, wow, there's a lot of nodes in here. Geez. All right. And we're just going to bring that up just a little bit. I think makes sense. And then let's switch this section to a bridge. And turn our snapping back on. Oh, missed it. Bridge. There we go. Didn't want the whole thing though. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't quite grab the nodes you want it to grab for bridge or for, you know, switching sections. And then 2-lane, ground. There we go. And ground. Perfect. All right. 6th time is the charm. All right, and let's take a look at this road. You know, it feels like man-made, like they built this up kind of but built it on something that was natural, but it's clearly man-made, and I actually kind of like that. I think I like that this feels as if they really, you know, they knew they needed another road here, and it didn't quite make sense, but it was the most sense it made out of anywhere else. And that they kind of, you know, like threw a bunch of earth in here and made it work. So I think we can, let's just readjust this bit a little. Maybe more like that, and then line this back up with our other area here. And is that, no, that's not that high. Okay. 3.2, let's go back to like 1.9. And then we can also just bring this up here. And we'll also do that to this node in the middle. There we go. Okay, so that I think will work. And then let's bring our slope tool in here and just kind of get away a little bit with our elevation just on this side. So that'll work there. And then road, highway, ground, like so. And yeah, that is gonna work until I delete it accidentally trying to get rid of these trees. So I know I've talked about this. The trees only go through the road if you adjust the road after you've already built it, I think seems to be the thing. So not ideal, but at least we know what we're dealing with here. So let's see, that is looking a little crazy, but I think with some detail stuff, it'll feel better. I do think that the slope needs some adjustment. So let's just get rid of this and use the slope tool. You know, that this building this kind of stuff, the more complicated it is, it's really not a single operational, you know, thing. You really got to kind of lay one down and then adjust it and then kind of go back, and you're not just going to lay down a singular road and have it work. So it's you know, I wish, like many things, I wish it were different, but it is not. So it is what it is. But I think that looks much better. That's a little close to the track. So actually, let's scoot this over. I don't want such an aggressive kind of cliffside there. I think if we just move this over a bit, and then we can even make this a little curvier. That I think is okay. Let's see. I want to make sure that the bridge itself is totally straight though. Okay, I think that'll do it. And then on this side, we get our slope tool out here and just slope from there to there. And this time we'll get rid of the trees beforehand. See, I'm learning. I can learn. I can adapt. Kinda. And yep. All right, so we've got a lot of train and rail and road infrastructure over here that is looking like a little much, but that's okay. And I just don't like that little curve in there. I know I nitpick in every little thing, but I think that would be better if that were just like a straight section, kind of like that. Great. All right, and now, so we can get some traffic going on this, let's get a slope tool here and boom from there and bring that up. And slope tool here to there. And I feel like I didn't quite get the right. There we go. Gotta get the actual. Okay, there we go. Now there's our train. I missed it again. It's a short one. Man, 0 for 4. I think we're fine, but. And then from here to about there. And then here and somewhere right along there. And then let's see, where does this go? Ooh. I wonder if this becomes another road back up into Rockwell. Interesting. Rockwell's felt so far away from everything out here when we first made it from Blackfoot, but now there's a whole bunch of stuff happening over here. So it's really not that far from from whatever we're going to call this. And I think, this could have been, they could have gotten a lot of the rock or clay or whatever they used to, build bricks and build this town out, probably was mined here in Rockwell way back in, I don't know, we'll call it 1830. Why not? And, oh, right. So we need on-ramps up here. And we're just going to go with some simple ones. And just going to get one in like that. Oh, I do need to, well, we can do it after. Need to get our roads feeling a little, get a lane out of there so that these flow in a little more straightforward. And like that. And then finally get this one kind of in, and I don't know what that one's doing. Why are you grabbing like that? Okay. And then make sure these are going the right way. That one is, and now that one is. And then switch this to 2-lane highway just in here. And got a little funky business going on there, but otherwise that should do a lot for traffic. Now I will say most of the traffic was coming from the northwest over here, or just the north. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, I added this little compass mod that you can either have on, let's see, kind of this where it shows north, or it'll tell you exactly which way you're directing, and then you can adjust which way you want to be north. So to be honest, I have north is actually going the wrong way, because the sun sets or rises here and sets here, which would actually make this east and that west and this north. But because this is the California Colorado map, I really want this coast to be west, like I have marked. So just ignore the sun position. You can adjust the kind of where the sun in the sky is with the time and weather anarchy, but it doesn't do it like on a full 360. It does it within the range of how a sun would move within a year, which obviously it doesn't rotate completely north and south. So you can only go so far. So yeah, we're a little off on that, but it is what it is. And then they're using the off ramp while the highway is out, and then we'll just connect this in there. And all right, we have another intersection. So it's a little weird. It's a little, I don't know, it's a thing, but I think it'll, I was thinking about doing something here and bringing its stuff in there, or it had all this train bridge stuff, and I don't know, it's not my favorite part, but I think it'll help alleviate some traffic, and a town like this should have 2 highway. So we can follow this truck here on his journey. Probably a sketchy route for a truck, but he did come from, the industrial area to get on the highway here, and I assume he's going to go that way. Oh no, he's just going to vanish into thin air. All right, well that wasn't creepy at all. Thanos would be proud. Okay, so now the other thing I was thinking about is that we're getting all this train traffic, and the problem is that I have cargo railing going on this section through the industrial area, down this train track, and then meeting up here, so we can either go this way through Blackfoot or out that way. And the train routes I have, the internal cargo routes I have, are doing that. However, the problem is that there are external cargo train tracks or train routes coming from off map that are going into cargo centers around here, and they go this way. And so they are clogging up a bunch of this. So my thought is, I looked around, it doesn't seem like there is quite a mod or anything to be able to say that like cargo trains cannot go on this stretch of road. They must turn left. You can use lane connector tool on rail, which is cool, but you can't. So I could say no trains go this way or go that way, but you can't, you can't designate that only cargo will, which would be cool. Being able to switch these and say cargo goes this way, and that's hopefully maybe something that'll be coming to that mod, which would be awesome. But in the meantime, we can't do that. So my thought was either deal with it, which, or have another rail that splits here and runs along this and meets back there. That feels like, I don't know, that feels excessive to me. We've already got so much stuff going on here, and I don't want to just add another one. So I'm going to leave it for now, but you guys let me know what you think. Do you think we had another bypass track that would kind of go something like, and this is quick and dirty, but something, like that, and then, have it meet up here. That belongs on a certain sister subreddit for City Skylines. That kind of thing, or do we just leave it? I feel like 4 bridges across this little thing is enough already. So, or 3 is enough, and 4 would be a lot. So we'll leave it for now. But that was something that I was thinking about. So The other thing I want to do is look at the rest of this river here. So basically what I'd been doing in order to kind of walk you guys through how I'd been detailing this was going through with a soft, smooth brush here and just kind of bringing this down a little bit. You know, the river is getting a little shallow here, and I think that's okay. But just softening this up a bit, and then let's see, that's getting a little narrow, and so let's bring in a little brush and see if we can't just create a little more, kind of like how we have outside of Rockwell, kind of a little deeper area that is cutting through here. And see if we just smooth that out a bit. You can't see it as much from other angles as much as when you look straight down. So, and then okay, and then I've really been using this this gravel texture on the banks here. You can't put it underneath roads because it goes on top of everything, so you just have to line it up right about there and then kind of bring it around and line that up, and then using the kind of less dense one to smooth out that transition. I have found with this one that it helps to do this one twice because you still see this kind of hard line. So if you do the soft one again, it'll blur where those double up. It'll blur that, and you get a much smoother, smoother transition. So that's how I've been doing that. And then, so I have this kind of bar restaurant thing that I attached some old stuff to. I've been trying to, anything that looks kind of modern, I've been trying to just attach some old industry stuff to make it seem like a lot of the stuff has been converted. This was an old manufacturing warehouse, something, and you know, maybe now it's a brewery or whatever, but either way, I think it just helps kind of make this stuff feel like it belongs here. So I'm going to go through and detail a bunch of this riverside up, and we can hopefully get this river stuff all laid down, and then we'll jump into some other stuff afterwards. All right, so I went through and finished up a bunch of the more of this river detailing stuff, and then you can probably see some new buildings. I added some other stuff and just kind of plopped in some holes that patched up some holes that we had, and I actually can't believe how well this building fits. It actually, like the fact that it curves in on this side, right, kind of where this street does. I mean, I didn't adjust the roads for this at all. It just fit right there. I was shocked about that. So that one's looking awesome. And let's see, got some of this in. I also got a little boat ramp area kind of going on here. I would imagine there's plenty of boating out on this lake during the summer. It's a pretty big one, so some of that going on. And then cleaned up this over here a little bit, got some retaining rock walls in, kind of a little swampy marsh area going on here. Not so much a lake, but I think probably just where rainwater collects, kind of a thing. I thought it was kind of neat. So yeah, I think we got a lot of stuff in. So one thing I wanted to look at real quick was generally, I know that many people, including myself, are not a big fan of the way that the chimneys, you know, the white smoke that comes out of the chimneys. Let's see, is there anything? I try to avoid. There's none over there right now. I try to avoid those. The white smoke is just so bright and obnoxious, but I feel like this big factory should have something going on because it is doing its work. It's employing almost over 500 people, and it's pumping out lots of stuff. So, but it kind of looks like it's just sitting there. So, I did notice that there are some chimneys that have a darker smoke to them. Let's see. So they're under the industrial props, and you can find all the chimneys in here, but I think it's, let's see, which one? There's two. I think it's industrial chimney large 2. Is this the right one? Well, we don't want a row of them. Yes, so that one does gray or black smoke, and then there was also there was another one. Was it or no, it was it small? No. There is another one, and now I'm forgetting which one it is. Was it this one? No, see, that's the white one that is just not the business. Let's see. Oh, there. So we'll get rid of these. So this one, which is the Industrial Chimney Medium Forestry 2. So these both put out this dark smoke that I think looks a lot better. So what I'm going to do is move it, and hold shift and page up and just raise this up. And then I'm going to drag it over and stick it right inside of these big chimneys, just enough to where it'll hide it, but that the smoke will come out of the top. So kind of like that, but probably still a little lower, right about there. I don't know if there's a benefit to using different ones, or if it probably just use the same one every time, but either way. So I'll drop another one in here. That one lined up pretty good. And then just scoot that guy down. And then we've got one more little chimney over here that I also want to get going on. Oh, that is not what we want though. But yeah, the steam or white smoke or whatever it is just, it's a lot. So maybe it's just the forestry ones that do the darker smoke. But either way, I think this is a great solution for if there are chimneys that are not producing anything that you want, or if you wanted to add chimneys to buildings that don't already have them without getting that terrible white smoke. So I think now that looks like the kind of industrial town where we just have this smoke coming out. And I actually think we need to lower these a little more so that it's actually coming out from the inside. But that's the idea. That one maybe is okay. Yeah. I think that looks awesome. So that was just a little thing I thought I would mention real quick to see if anybody wanted to try that in their own city. And then I also added a few more buildings here to this kind of, I'm not sure I'm going to keep it quite like this. So initially we had this, oh wow, I was going to say they're hooping, but they're really just standing around, I guess, but they're a popular court to hang out on at least. I wanted to make this kind of a variation of various, so super varied, of different kind of apartment complexes all right next to each other. So I think it feels a little silly now. I think once there's some trees and some detail and stuff in here, it'll feel better. But I did get some of these, and these are actually European ones, and then these I think are Japanese ones. But I think they work for kind of some lower income housing and just kind of some single developer units. So we got a ton of people living in this town, and it's pretty packed in. So then the other thing I wanted to do with this area was create a little strip mall zone. So I want to use these 2-lane. I think we're actually going to use the angled one, but first we're going to start with a alleyway and just kind of bring that up through about there. And then we're going to go with these diagonal parking roads. And I'm just going to run this across like that and like that. And then actually we can probably scoot these down just a little, maybe not all at once. That might mess some other stuff up. So just bring these in more like that and create this little grass strip. And then we'll get rid of the intersection stuff so that we're not creating too much intersections kind of all in one place. So we'll just get rid of all that, and we'll get rid of all of this. And yeah. All right. So that is working. And then let's just find some low density commercial to stick in here. I kind of want stuff. Let's try some of the vanilla low density in commercial. So let's just get out here by low. And I kind of want some of the bigger stuff. So let's see how big we can get. 6, 7, 6. And let's see, what do we have? So see, that's not bad, but again, it already has its own parking, which we can delete, but it does create some stuff. Let's see. There we go. That's a good one. And that's a good one. And then let's try some of the new packs here. Let's see what we have. Oh, here we go. And we're also going to want some of the bigger things. I love the grocery store. It does have such a big, maybe we can tuck this off in the back somewhere or off to the side like that. Actually, yeah, I think that'll work. And then let's see, what else do we have that kind of has its own. It's a little too fancy, maybe. Let's see if we go down to 5. And then, yeah, this one is actually perfect. That's very much a strip mall. These kind of all feel same, but different. So yeah, I think this is kind of what I had in mind. Just a little kind of shopping row center here with some stuff on it. And just get this tucked in maybe like that. About. And leave them a little bit of back area for loading. And we'll scoot these over Let's see, do we want to line this up with the street? Probably not. Sometimes that creates this kind of awkward triangular space, but we can bring the ground over. And then this guy will scoot over here. That one I think can line up with the road. And it looks like we have room for something else. So let's take a quick peek at that. That's not bad. It does have the parking in the front, but I think we can get rid of that. That's the same one. That's a variation of that one, which might be okay, because a lot of times these kind of strip mall-y areas are looking, you know, fairly repetitive. And yeah, I think we'll go with this guy who is freaking out. And we'll get one consistent surface in here to kind of align these a bit. So we'll get these at kind of a nice semicircle kind of angle here. So, okay, that's working. All right, let's get rid of all of these surfaces. Those can probably stay. That one will go. And let's get rid of all these grasses. I haven't really been using any of the vanilla grass surfaces because I've been covering so much stuff with other decals and surfaces that leaving the actual real grass, you know, we don't really have, not there because we're not done yet, but you know, if you look at like this, we don't really have any of the vanilla grass laying around. So when you do actually leave grass, it looks fine. I think the problem is that because the entire map is grass, you kind of want to have these differentiators, but the vanilla grass just doesn't look great. And I think leaving, you know, making sure you have other grass over it is fine. So let's see. Let's see, what do these look like? That one's not bad. I think, try a couple of these real quick. That one's a little bright. Yeah, I think we'll go with this one, which now of course is gone forever. Was it this one? Yeah, okay. So we'll just get this drawn in here. All right, it's got a nice, real concrete-y look to it. But yeah, you know, a lot of these places will have their, you know, shopping and parking in the front, and then all the kind of loading and stuff in the back. So we've left room for that. So yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. And then let's see, the other thing I wanted to do was, so we got a lot of these downtown is looking great. I got some little detailed parks and stuff in. We got a little food truck area, and yeah, I'm really liking the way that this downtown area has been coming together and all the brick. And then what I also wanted to do, because we do have so many of these nice big areas, I thought it'd be cool. This is a great place for some of the kind of larger graffiti art and mural stuff that we have. So let's see, I think this is, maybe we need to look in the graffiti thing, go all the way down here. Yeah. So let's see, there's probably some of these really big ones. Yeah, like these. This is just a great place for something like this. And what we really probably need are some custom ones that, you know, have some saying something about the town itself. So I am kind of looking into more custom decals and stuff like that and how to make those. So I'm hoping to get some of that stuff working. I've already tested a few things out that are kind of working and kind of aren't. So hopefully we can get a little farther with that. But I think that being able to get this kind of stuff going would be awesome. So, all right, let's see. So this is a very large wall, and I'm just wondering if we really want to just put one big thing on it that won't fill it, or, you know, maybe just put some smaller stuff, you know, kind of down here. Be nice to have some horizontal ones. So I'm just kind of looking through. Yeah, I think we'll go with a nice big one. So that one, I mean, this one feels like it's, you know, something taken right from around up over the hills here somewhere. So I think that one is looking great. And there's a few other spots I had kind of seen. Oh, I think back here was looking like a good one. Oh, that one's really big. Should this one be better here? No, they're about the same size. Okay. Oh, that one's cool, and it's kind of the same color scheme as the building here, so that'll work. And we can probably get some smaller ones on some of these. Oh, the drips on that one are very cool. I've looked at a number of these, but not all of them. Yeah, that's awesome. And then I thought there was one more place that felt probably not on the fire station. Oh, maybe it was this little one down here, kind of right on the street level. Let's see what we have. And I think this is like a bar and restaurant kind of thing. Like, I think this is the right. Just have this crazy wall of color here. Feels on brand for something like that. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Man, that looks really cool. The way that you can just kind of stack these, man, that came out way better than I was even thinking it would. Looks like we have some textures here to adjust real quick. And those I think we can keep, but let's just get some more of these brick in. Keep calling them textures. I know that there's, you know, we're calling them surfaces in this game, so that is on me. All right, and we'll just fill this into back here a bit. And right there. All right, that's awesome. And then to wrap it up today, I want to just take a look at this interchange here and off-ramp stuff. And because I had lost so much of the detailing footage from the one we did over in Blackfoot, I was going to do something similar here, so I just thought we'd go through that real quick. Okay, so I think for the most part, the earth is kind of where I want it. I like these little cliffs. I like that it slopes here. And I was thinking about, now that we're not scared of the water anymore, I wonder if this could be a cool little place for a little pond lake situation. Lake is definitely the wrong term, but pond I think is fair. Whoa, not like that. More like, not even like that. More like this, I think, is a little less ridiculous. And then let's see if we just Smooth that out a bit. And make sure that's a little too shallow now, but make sure we don't have anywhere for things to spill over. I do want this to come kind of right up to the road here. So kind of like that. And then let's see if we drop in a lake, constant level. And our lowest point looks like it's right about here. So let's try that one and just plop that boy in. And we'll let that speed up time here a little bit and let that fill out. And then the problem a lot with the decals is they really only work on like super flat surfaces. So some of this stuff that maybe you wouldn't be flat, you do have to flatten out a bit to make those decals work kind of in the best way. So I'm just going to flatten out some of this a little more than I would want to, and just make sure that is not spilling over. But ultimately, when you've got the rest of the detail on top of it, it doesn't look as flat as it would otherwise. So this, I think we can bring over to meet like that. We don't need that kind of dip there. And smooth this out a little bit. All right. I think that's working. Let's see if we maybe lower this side a bit just to give ourselves a little, I don't know, short line thingamabob here. Because we just can't take the water any deeper. And now I wonder if we should make this a key wall, but we'll worry about that in a minute. So let's look at some of these decals again. And kind of the way that I had been going about it for the last one was not just kind of throwing stuff down and trying to piece them together. So stuff that, you know, so these are, and real quick, these are ones I had kind of been working on, these grass textures that I think look pretty nice. And then these other ones got all, I don't know why they're quite so bright. It has something to do with the JSON file that I did this quickly, but, and they're also all the wrong sizes, but I think we can have some good stuff. So, there'll be more information on that as I, continue to play around with those. So, try to find, so the ones I really like, this is one of my favorite ones. This one, the fall off on it is just super nice. So just throw these guys kind of down where you can. And on these kind of flat areas, and just spin them around a bit so that you get a little variation. This one does have that rock pattern in it, but you can end up kind of hiding some of that once you put some other stuff over it. So then you might want something like that on the edge, and just kind of mixing in some other stuff with them. And this one is a nice transition kind of from the grass. Nah, not quite there. Let's see. These big ones are great, and that I was trying to actually make some of the ones I had worked on bigger, but I somehow got the size wrong. So that's something we'll fix and figure out at some point. And these kind of can mix in to the shape, you know, the contour. They stay only on the flat area, but sometimes that works out because you get they kind of shape around stuff, and it helps you blend them a bit. And then, I mean, you know, it's really just a lot of just kind of grabbing stuff and seeing how it fits. And it's not, I think part of the reason too I hadn't done too much of this on camera is because it is a bit of a tedious and kind of boring to watch plant thing. So I did want to touch on it just since I did try to get some of it, but ended up losing quite a bit of that footage to the technology gods. So just kind of getting some of these in and rotating them around for some variety. And just kind of lining stuff here. And then there's one, this one is good because we don't want to get it on the road there, but it blends a lot of stuff in fairly nice from grass to dirt. And it has a lot to do with which ones kind of go over each other to kind of make things feel as good as they can. And these kind of grass ones. And, you know, when you start just throwing them down like this, they don't look, it looks like a real mismatch of random stuff, which it is. But it's once you get all these in and then you start getting some stuff on top of it, that is where it really starts to come together. So just trying to hide any of the square shapes and the weirdness, and getting a little bit of dirt in, and sometimes, you know, sometimes they show through a bit, so just trying to find places for them to, you know, just kind of blend in with each other. And let's see. This one has a nice shape to it. This kind of triangle shape is good for, you know, you can really, it overlays the roads a little bit, which kind of gives that nice impression of, you know, the vines or kind of bushes just creeping into the roads there a bit, which is nice. And I think really gives a real, you know, mountainy, natural kind of feel to things. You know, so like that looks a little whatever, right? But I think now the fun part is when you bring in some bushes and some rocks, it really starts to work itself out really well. And sinking this stuff down really helps so that it looks more like stuff growing on the ground rather than as high. And then when you start laying them over and they start blending in with some of these group decals, you know, if you see a bush or some dark green areas in here, you know, playing that up and letting those textures work together. So, you know, you've got grass here and just kind of plugging those in and using them to hide kind of any hard edges, I think goes a long way. So, I mean, already just even bringing some 3D elements into this already starts to really help. And then rocks, so I'm going to bring the rock in like where the rock is in the decal, and that really helps sell some three-dimensionality to these two-dimensional, you know, things. So now the rock blends in way more, and I think it really, you know, you look at these rocks here, you can cover some of them up, but if you don't and you just kind of lay it next to it, you know, like, let's see, kind of like that from farther away, you get a lot more variation in your rocks. So I think that helps. And just kind of dropping a few of these in here, and I love giving little kind of rock barriers to places where there are overpasses and ramps and stuff, and just building that up with rocks. I wish we had something in between this big rock and these little pebble boys, which also are nice to drop a few of these in where you can, but they're a little harder to see from farther away unless you've got like a lot of them. So I don't really do these too much, but they do add a bit of something. And then also getting bush variation is really good, not just kind of using the same thing. So mixing in a few different ones really helps. And just trying to be as random with it as you can, which is surprisingly much harder than, you know, it seems. And then you just get in a couple of trees with some varying height, and, you know, this kind of thing, get in some of these. And the trees really go a long way. So now suddenly, you know, a lot of that doesn't feel quite as flat and random. You know, it just really helps merge that all together. And then the thing that really ties it all in is then grabbing some of these surfaces. And I've been using, obviously the Sully ones are great, but also these are a little heavy. So I've been kind of really liking these small pebbles. These, even though these are pebbles, they're kind of brown, and so they end up looking a bit more like dirt than pebbles. So just kind of filling this stuff out here really goes a long way, and bringing these up like in and trying to give them really organic looking shapes, and then filling these out with the lighter ones. And we'll just tuck that in there. And really, it's really just about stacking a bunch of stuff. So now that I've done that, I am still going to go ahead and bring in a little bit of the Sully ones, because they've got some rocks in them, and they just add and some grass, I think, and they just kind of add a little more variation. So you start bringing that stuff in, and kind of bring this in over here. You know, and now from here, you know, you see this kind of dirt trailing off, and that really goes a long way. So I'm going to go through here and finish this up, but I just wanted to kind of walk through the way that I go about this stuff. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'm super stoked on this town, and I know we haven't named it yet. We'll do that first thing next episode, but overall, I think this is looking great. So thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate hitting the subscribe button and the like button, and I'll see everybody next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.